chosen one. Stop for a moment because something is happening with your name right now, even though you can't see it yet. People are talking in rooms you've never been in before. They are changing their minds about what they used to think about you, and truths are coming out that no one can hide anymore. For a long time, people who didn't know your journey shaped your reputation. People talked about you even though they only knew parts of your story. They thought you were weak because you didn't speak up and that you were failing because you were patient. But heaven never lost track of who you were becoming. This message has come to you at the right time. Anointed One, this meeting is not by chance. You can't force or put off the timing in the Spirit. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "There is a season for everything under heaven," and the season where your name was misunderstood is quietly closing. While others were making up their minds, God was making you. Heaven was getting ready for your future while they were looking at your past. What they thought was absence was really protection. What they called a delay was God's plan. And now the mood around your life is starting to shift. Chosen one, if you feel these messages speak to your spirit, think about subscribing so you don't miss the words that are meant to help you in times like this. Because what is about to happen will show you why heaven has decided that your story can no longer be kept secret. Oh, chosen one, you need to know something about how God fixes a bad name. Heaven doesn't often make noise when things change. When the Lord decides to change the story of a life, He doesn't rush to defend it in public. At first, He moves quietly, patiently, and almost without being seen. People may think it's quiet, but it's often the divine timing that is happening behind the scenes. And that's exactly where you are right now. Things have already started to change around your name. Even if not many people have noticed it yet, the same people who thought they knew you well are about to meet a version of you that they can't easily explain. Not because you changed, but because the work God has been doing in you is finally coming to light. People watched you for a long time through moments that weren't complete. They thought they were seeing the whole picture when they only saw parts of your journey. Some people judged you when you were still healing, and others talked about you when you were still learning. While God was still making you, a lot of people had already made up their minds about you. And the truth is, most of them never understood that they were watching the process, not the end result. Heaven never agreed with the names that people gave you. Chosen one, people talked fast, but God worked slowly. The Lord was building the foundations of your life in ways that no one could see while others were jumping to conclusions. There is a time in life that most people go through, and you might know when it happens. You go into a place you know well, like a job, a meeting, a gathering, or even a conversation with people who used to ignore you. The outside of the room hasn't changed at all. You are surrounded by the same walls, the same people, and the same place, but something seems off. You haven't yelled, you haven't forced your presence, you haven't tried to impress anyone. And yet, the environment still reacts to you in a different way. When you talk, people pay more attention. The same truths that have been true for you for years suddenly matter. People who used to ignore what you said now think before they respond. That change for the chosen one is not an accident. This is a time of spiritual alignment. God is changing how people see your life, not because you asked for it, but because the time has come for the truth to stand on its own. A strong principle is shown in the Bible that many people miss. When the prophet Samuel went to anoint David, the Lord said things that still ring true today. People judge others by how they look on the outside, but God looks at the heart. For a long time, a lot of people around you judged your life based on what they could see from the outside. They measured you by short seasons and judged you by chapters that weren't finished. But heaven was never evaluating your life that way. God was looking at your heart. He saw the nights when you kept going even though no one cheered for you. He saw the prayers you said in a whisper when you were confused. He saw how you held back when you could have fought back but chose to keep the peace instead. Chosen one. Silence is one of the most misunderstood kinds of strength. People often think that silence means weakness, but God often uses silence to get ready. There were times when you could have made your case, explained why you did what you did, cleared up any confusion, and worked to improve your reputation, but something deep inside you told you to back off, wait, and let time show you what words couldn't. That wasn't being passive, that was being wise and guided by something bigger than what people thought. When God wants to raise someone up, He doesn't usually let them build their reputation by arguing or defending themselves. Instead, He lets their life be the proof, and it takes time to gather that kind of evidence. There were times when you felt like no one could see you, like your hard work went unnoticed. You saw other people move ahead while it looked like you weren't making any progress. I remember a season in my own life when I experienced something similar. I was doing what I thought God wanted me to do, but nothing seemed to be happening. People talked without me, and chances went by. I thought for a while that I might have gotten my purpose wrong, but later, I learned something important. God wasn't ignoring my progress, He was planting roots. Chosen one. That is the best picture of the season you have been going through. Your life has been like a seed that was planted in the ground. People didn't see anything impressive from the outside. They thought nothing was going on, and some even thought you were falling behind. But deep down, something was getting stronger every day. Character was being formed. Discernment was getting sharper. Faith was growing in ways that applause could never do. Every letdown became part of that secret work. Every time you didn't understand something, it made you stronger and less reliant on others' approval. Every door that was shut made you trust God more, and now the roots are strong enough. This is why the change coming up may seem sudden to some people. People will say that everything happened in a flash. They will be curious about why people suddenly started treating you differently. But chosen one, this moment isn't sudden at all. For years, heaven has been getting ready for this change. People often think of overnight changes as things that happen quickly, but they are usually the result of long periods of growth that we can't see. In Habakkuk 2:3, the Bible tells us that the vision may seem to be taking a long time, but we should wait for it because it will come at the right time. You are now entering that time. The change will start out slowly. Changes will be clear in conversations. People's tone with you will change. There will be chances that will come up that will show you the respect you thought you didn't have, not because you suddenly tried harder, but because your spirit now has a weight that can't be ignored. You have gained authority through the things you have been through, and the best part of this change is that you won't have to explain yourself anymore. You may have had to deal with the stress of fixing every misunderstanding about your life for a long time, but God is taking that weight off of you. Because the next part of your life will say more than anything you could say. People who used to doubt may not always say they're sorry, but their point of view will change. Doubt will slowly turn into interest, and through it all, you'll start to see something clearly. God isn't just fixing your reputation, He's showing you the truth that was always there, waiting for the right time to be seen. Chosen one. The hardest part of being misunderstood isn't always the criticism itself. After that, it is the quiet season. It's the time when everything seems to stop, and you start to worry that the silence around you means something is wrong. A lot of people don't talk about that part of the journey, but it's one of the most important times in the life of someone God is getting ready, because in that silence, questions come up that you can't easily answer. You go about your days looking calm to the outside world, but in your mind, things are whispering that you wish you could ignore. Did I get my calling wrong? Did I hear God right? Was the dream in my heart real, or did I just make it up to keep my hope alive? Those questions aren't weak, they're human, and many of the people who are chosen go through that same valley of doubt before the next chapter starts. There was a time when you thought you were almost there, but you never quite got to the point where everything made sense. You were smart enough to see the deeper layers of life that most people miss, but you were also grounded enough not to get lost in fantasy. Some people thought you were too spiritual, while others thought you were too thoughtful, too reflective, and too aware of things that most people would rather not think about. You learned how to stand still while people watched you from a distance, trying to figure out what kind of person you were. You let time pass instead of trying to control how people understood you, even though their conclusions were sometimes wrong. It takes strength to be that patient. Not many people know that it means carrying out your purpose even when the world doesn't know how to read it yet. Chosen one. That season took a lot of strength that people don't often praise. You kept going even when no one noticed how hard you worked. You were still kind even when you didn't have much money. You chose honesty over compromise, even though it might have led to faster acceptance. Those choices made something inside you that can't be replaced. They built a base under your life that is stronger than what other people think. And now that foundation is about to support a visible change because the chapter of misunderstanding is coming to an end, and heaven is entering the story in a way that will make things clearer where they were once murky. The Bible talks about this kind of moment with calm confidence. The book of Galatians tells us not to get tired of doing good things because we will get what we want if we don't give up. That message is not poetic encouragement. It is a spiritual truth. God does not disregard steadfast perseverance. When the right time comes, what was planted during times of faith starts to show up in ways that people can't deny. When God gives someone favor, they don't have to wait for others to agree. It moves with power that people can't stop. Take a moment to let this truth sink in, chosen one. Your reputation isn't just being fixed, it's being rewritten from the ground up. People are now getting to the bottom of what they used to think about you. A lot of people thought your silence was a sign of weakness, but it was actually a sign of strength. Some people thought you were hesitating because you were patient, but you were just waiting for the right time. Some people thought your humility meant you weren't ready. But it was your humility that made you ready to handle what comes next without losing yourself. The timing is changing now. Finally, truth and time are in the same place. When that happens, doors that were once closed start to open again. Opportunities that used to pass you by now stop. And this time, they don't ignore you. They notice that something is different about you. Not because you forced your way into those spaces, but because heaven has already said yes to what people used to doubt. The most interesting thing is that the change won't always look big. It will often show itself through small changes. People who used to ignore you will start paying attention to you. People who used to ignore what you said will now ask for it. Over time, resistance will turn into respect. Chosen one. This is how divine correction happens. It doesn't always come with cheers or announcements. Sometimes it shows up in a quiet way. The same people who said you were unrealistic may now see that you were just ahead of your time. People who called your vision a dream will see that it had a plan that they couldn't see before. You didn't try to get attention when no one was watching. You kept becoming the person God wanted you to be instead. The next stage of your life will be important because of that hidden commitment, and as this change happens, you will start to understand something more. It's not just about reputation, it's also about being in line with what is happening. God is bringing your inner change in the world around you into the same moment of truth. When those two things come together, the life you've been building starts to speak for itself. Chosen one, what happens next will show you how strong that alignment really is. There was a reason why your journey went the way it did. You often thought the road was longer than it really was. Many people thought you were just late, delayed, or having trouble catching up when they looked at your life from the outside. They looked at your timeline and their own expectations and quietly decided that something was wrong with your path. But heaven never judged your life by how fast the crowd moved. God was measuring something else entirely. He was more interested in depth than visibility, which is what others were. While others were looking for fame, he was planting roots and knew that would be strong when the time came. Chosen one, you need to know that what God is about to do through your life can't be built on a weak foundation. Things that are built quickly can also fall apart quickly, but things that are built slowly, with care, under pressure, and with care are stable and can't be easily shaken by storms. That is why you needed to be patient on your journey, which most people would not have been able to do. There were times when it seemed like nothing around you was moving forward, doors opened and closed quickly, and chances came and went, and sometimes it felt like you weren't making any progress at all. But during each of those seasons, something deeper inside you was getting stronger. Many chosen people have a moment when they look around and realize that they are no longer reacting to life the way they used to. Things that used to make me anxious now make me feel calm. The beliefs that used to define who you are start to lose their power over you. The criticism that used to keep you up at night now seems far away, like it belongs to a different version of you that you have already outgrown. That change doesn't happen by chance. It happens slowly over time as things change. The fights you had with yourself changed how you act in public. The wounds that once felt too much to handle became lessons that made you more discerning. Chosen one, this change inside of you is the real start of the reputation change that God is making happen. People often judge others by what they say and how they look, but in the spirit, reputation is based on presence. People can feel the peace that someone brings into a room when they have been through storms. People can tell when someone is speaking from experience rather than theory, even if they can't put their finger on it. And that is the language that your life is starting to speak now. You might start to notice something small but powerful. Things that used to feel heavy around you will start to feel different. Conversations that used to take a lot of your energy won't have the same effect on you anymore. You will go into places where there used to be tension and find that it doesn't bother you as much as it used to. This isn't because the world around you has suddenly gotten easier. The authority inside you has grown stronger. The opinions that used to try to define you no longer hold you back. In Proverbs 16:3, the Bible says that when we give our work to the Lord, our plans are set. A lot of people don't realize how much that verse means. Establishment is not just about getting things done, it's also about keeping things stable. When God sets something in a person's life, it can't be easily changed by changing circumstances or opinions. The reputation that will grow around your life won't be the kind that needs constant approval. It will be the kind that comes from who you are now. There will be times this season when chances come up that don't fit with the timeline people had in mind for you. Doors will open for you in places where you didn't run for office. People will talk in rooms you never tried to get into. Chosen one. This is what favor usually looks like. It doesn't always follow patterns that are easy to see. There are times when it seems like your name is being used in places you've never been. Sometimes it comes from people who quietly saw your honest eye while others missed it. This moment is powerful because you don't feel the need to prove yourself anymore. There was a time when you might have felt like you had to prove your worth or explain your journey, but now you're starting to feel more sure of yourself. You know what has been done in private. You know the nights when you kept going even though no one was watching. Knowing that changes how you act. It frees you from the tiring need to convince people who have already made up their minds not to understand. Some of the same people who used to ignore your growth will start to notice something different about you, chosen one. They might become more interested and their tone might become softer. Some people won't admit they were wrong, but their actions will show that the story they used to believe doesn't match the facts anymore. This isn't about getting back at someone or proving them wrong. It's something much bigger. When God clears the fog from a person's life, they can finally see the truth clearly. And as that clarity spreads, something amazing will happen. The life you've been quietly building will start to speak for you. Your presence will tell a story that can't be ignored, without arguments, explanations, or effort. That story will not only change how people see you, but it will also remind you of something important about your own life. You never wasted the years you thought were hidden. They were getting ready for the time when everything would come together at once. Chosen one. This change has another level that most people don't see right away. When God starts to change how the world sees you, the first sign isn't always that people recognize you. The first sign is peace, which is a kind of peace that wasn't there before. You will start to notice that things that used to bother you don't bother you as much anymore. The same voices that used to make you doubt your worth will no longer have any power over your thoughts. Things that used to bother you won't bother you anymore. That change is not apathy, it is maturity forged through experience. There was a time when every opinion seemed important, every misunderstanding seemed like it needed to be fixed right away, and every bad assumption seemed like it needed to be dealt with right away. But God has been teaching you something more than just how to protect yourself over time. He has been teaching you how to stand without always reacting. It isn't easy to learn that lesson. It usually comes during times when you had to stay calm while people got the wrong idea about what you wanted. It was uncomfortable, and sometimes even unfair, to be in those situations, but they had a secret purpose. They taught your spirit to find its strength in truth rather than in approval. Chosen one. This is important now because the change in your reputation will not only be on the outside, it will also be on the inside. You will also see yourself differently as people start to see you differently, not with pride, but with clarity. You will see how far you have come. You would not have dealt with some of the stressors in the same way that you do now. The changes that happened inside you have changed the way you see things, and that inner peace is what lets the next chapter of your life happen without making you feel too much. When someone stops trying to control how others see them and starts trusting God to do it instead, something powerful happens. It's tiring to always try to control what other people think. It takes away energy that could be used to make something useful. But something amazing happens when you let go of that weight. You start to live your life in a way that others can see. You make better choices, and your voice gets stronger. You don't change your course just to meet expectations that were never in line with your calling. The book of Proverbs says that you should give your work to the Lord so that your plans can be set. Establishment is not about short-term success, it's about long-term success. When God sets something up, it can't be criticized for a short time. That's the kind of base that is being built for the next part of your life. You won't have to keep explaining yourself for your reputation to grow. It will grow on its own as you become more consistent. As this change goes on, there will be times when chances come up that don't make sense given your past. You might get invited to places where your name was never mentioned before. People will start talking to you without you having to do anything. People who used to ignore what you had to say will suddenly want to know what you think. At first, these moments may seem strange, but they are a normal part of how divine favor works. God knows how to put a person's name in the right place at the right time without them having to work for it. I have also seen this pattern happen in my own life. There were times when it seemed like my work was going to waste. Then, out of nowhere, a door would open thanks to someone who had been quietly watching my journey from a distance. They had seen something that other people had missed. People often notice integrity without saying anything. No one is openly admitting it right now, but the same thing is happening in your story. Chosen one, you thought no one was paying attention, but there were people who were watching how you dealt with problems. Not everyone who used to doubt you will suddenly start to support you. It's fine if some people stay away. The goal of this change is not to get everyone to agree. The goal is to be clear. People who are meant to be with you in the next chapter will start to see how real your journey is. People who aren't on the same page will slowly pull back. That separation isn't a loss. It's alignment that makes room for what should be in your life. As the fog around your reputation starts to clear, you will also feel more at peace with yourself. You won't need to argue, explain, or defend your story as much. Instead, the truth will start to come out in your life. People will notice how consistent your actions are, how steady your character is, and how quietly you carry your authority. That consistency will speak louder than any label that was put on your name in the past. Chosen one. What's going on right now is more than just a change in how you see things. It is the unfolding of God's perfect timing. The same God who let some times of confusion happen is now letting the truth come out. When someone who has stayed faithful through silence finally sees the truth, it has a big effect. The story starts to change not because of force, but because of proof. The years when you felt like you were in the dark were not wasted years. They were a way to get ready for the moment when your life would start to fit with the purpose that was growing inside you all along. The more you align with that, the more clearly the world will see the person God has been shaping beneath the surface. There is something important you need to remember as this change keeps happening. The change that God is making in your life isn't just about how other people see you. It also has to do with how sure you are of who you are now. Because when heaven starts to lift someone up, the hardest part isn't always the pushback from others. Sometimes, the hardest part of growing up is learning to fully accept the new level of responsibility and visibility that comes with it. The person you were in earlier seasons might have wondered if you were ready for what was to come, but the person you are now has a different kind of strength. It was a calm confidence that came from experience, patience, and faith that wouldn't go away even when things were unclear. There were times when you thought about whether the work you put into your character really made a difference. It may have seemed like being honest didn't pay off when people didn't understand you or missed your point. But honesty is one of the strongest things a person can have in their life. It affects how you handle stress, how you treat people when you become powerful, and how steady your path stays when you finally reach your goal. God knew that if your reputation was going to change, it needed to be based on something more than what people thought of you. It had to be based on the character you built when no one was watching. The work that was hidden is now becoming clear. Chosen one, the same patience that used to feel like a burden is now working in your favor. While other people rushed ahead and built their identities on short-term attention, you were being shaped in ways that would help you last. This is why the change you are going through will last for a long time. It comes from something much more stable than being popular. It comes from the person God made you over time. You might notice something else happening as your reputation starts to match the truth of your journey.